Hello, this is Sean from CourageBox. I'm here with Tanya Negrey today, who is an art therapist in Saskatoon. And we're going to talk about this month's box, which is called Coping Through Creativity.
Hi, so I'm Tanya. I am, as Sean said, an art therapist here in Saskatoon. I have a background in psychology and fine arts. I did that for my undergraduate work. And I have a Master of Arts in Art Therapy that I did in Chicago, and I graduated in 2000. I worked for several years in Chicago as an art therapist in different settings, and I came back to my hometown of Saskatoon in '06, and I've been working as an art therapist in different settings since then. Currently I work primarily in First Nations communities. I commute to 2 communities 3 times a week, and I am a mental health support for children, youth, and adults.
So the first question that I have is, how can creativity help us cope with anxiety and depression?
Well, it's very much like what popular culture talks about now with mindfulness and meditation. So art therapy can really play a role in that. It has a similar effect on the brain. So when you're creative, and especially when you make art, it is something that naturally focuses you into one activity. Your blood pressure is naturally reduced. You're kind of in that here and now moment where you're in the present, so your head's not too much in your past or your future, or really on your present problems. So it really helps you to be in the moment. And then so generally when people are doing that, they're not also being distracted by symptoms of depression or anxiety for that time. And it actually works in the brain that way. It's like very much a brain operation, which is just starting to be understood. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
So what are some ways we can use creativity to cope?
Well, really, that's so individual and personal because people like different things. Like, I admit not everyone will like art therapy or making art. It's not for everyone, although I do think everyone can benefit from being creative. So it's what you're comfortable with. So it's really like, can you sit down and just do something with drawing or painting and see where it goes? Or do you want something more structured, like coloring? And that is something else that can help you with self-regulation, so regulating your emotional state. It doesn't necessarily go deeper than that, and that's okay. Hopefully when you do that, you find also what is called flow, so you kind of get in that, like, that's been written about, and the flow is a state where you kind of just let go. It's like you're in a state of higher state, or like, you know, reason people take drugs or alter their brain is because you want to get to that state where you're just like chill and your flow comes. So yeah, the journaling, the art making, dancing is fabulous because moving your body, and again how it affects your brain and how music affects your brain. So your favorite music is amazingly effective at lifting your mood and also getting you in that place. And I can't, like, I've used this myself, and I do every day, and or how many clients I've used it with where we play their music, their favorite music, and they get into that and they just like light up and there's someone else and they want to move to it. It's just because us as humans, we're inherently, I don't care what anyone says, I'm not creative, I don't have a creative bone. It's not true, really. We're inherently creative as people. We're born with it. We're all born with it, and we all express it to different degrees. We all have different comfort levels with it. But we kind of tamp that down as we get older. So that's why working with children generally is just amazing, because they haven't got that inner critical voice yet that says you have to be perfect, or someone's watching me. They don't get self-conscious. They just do it. You know, like they'll be open to anything, and it's just amazing. So that creativity, that openness is still in all of us. So that's what we all kind of try to do, is help our clients, help the people we work with tap into that creativity that's inside. So, and it's okay if people just end up drawing stick figures or whatever they're comfortable with. Because often it's very tough for adults too, because they haven't picked up an art supply maybe since grade school. So it can also be a very awkward and intimidating experience. So, yeah.
And that's okay, because it's not about the final product, it's about the process.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that in the field, if you're working with an art therapist, so the process and the product are part of that therapy. But when we're talking about someone working on their own, It is not so much about the product. So I would really encourage the people that are getting the Courage boxes this month to focus on your process. So that means the art process. You're not going to worry too much about how the final product looks. It's just for you. It's about the experience. So it's about the things that I've been speaking about. It's about helping your brain go into that place where you are, where you're supposed to be, actually, because us as people are not meant to be here to be always struggling or unhappy or in pain or suffering. So this is one way to access that part of us, and if you want to be deeper with it, maybe it's part of your spirituality, maybe it's just not neuropsychological in your brain, but of course, you know, that's individual and according to personal beliefs. But that process really is meant to help you tap into that intrinsic part of who you are that is good, and it's really just also about helping people find who they are, because I know after 18 years of professionally working, everybody is good inside and have what they need inside. So our culture really teaches us to look without, to go out, to look for what we need and to define who we are. And that is so rampant now with social media, because we're always out there comparing and looking, and it's immediate, it's right there. And so that can really play a number on us in terms of how, you know, we self-identify, our self-esteem, and the comparing is just, and especially with, you know, like youth, and they're really already in that age where it's already amplified in their head. So, yeah, that just helps you find your own self, because we all have that capacity, and you're not going to feel better really genuinely unless you help tap into that part of yourself that's you and beautiful and amazing and perfect, just the way it is.
So in terms of like the kinds of things that people can draw and experiment with and paint and stuff, do you have any ideas or any suggestions?
That's the big question. Because even for a lot of artists, it's like, where do I start?
Like if you're kind of sitting there staring at a blank piece of paper. We kind of talked about how if you're intimidated by a blank piece of paper, you can start out using coloring sheets. Or, you know, look online and see like some drawing prompts or something. And
Absolutely. It's beautiful online. That's another side of online. So you can go on YouTube and just get something simple like how to draw cute animals or something. And it'd be very simple. And gives, and again, try not to be judgmental. Just get a feel, or the coloring sheets, so you're going to get a feel for the materials. So maybe like just to see how the pencil crayons work or how the paints work. Paint can be very like, you know, unpredictable and fluid and messy. The pencil crayons, people are, you know, you're going to have a little more control over it. But it's going to have different effects, the pencils, the drawing. So just kind of fool around with it, see how it goes. And I would say, I just tell people to do kind of what they're feeling. So maybe you're feeling a color, maybe you're feeling a form or a shape, or you're in a memory, and what depicts that memory. And don't be afraid to use words or text, you know, like you can also go into a magazine and cut out text and paste it on, which also gives your piece kind of a cool look to it if you're, you know, want that. So just be free, and then everybody just kind of makes something very different when we do that. And again, it's just like getting started. It's like telling yourself, I need to exercise, but then you fight yourself and say, I don't want to do it, and I don't have the motivation. But then you go and you do it, and you never say, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I feel worse than before. You know, it'll be the same thing. You just gotta like go and do it. And if you don't like it, just try again.
And try different ways too. If you don't like one medium, if you don't like the paint, try something else.
Or trace your hand. Like just start by what you have. Trace your hand. Fill it in, color it, make words on it, make lines on it, see how that feels. There's no wrong way. That's the thing I always tell people. There's no wrong way to do it. So it's so not like art class. So most people have had the experience of art making in a class context where you have an assignment and you're supposed to follow it, and then you get marked on it. So it's not that at all, because nobody's going to grade you or see it. It's a completely different thing.
Nobody is grading it. Nobody is assigning a monetary value to it.
Exactly.
Like, it's just for you. You can throw it out after.
You can throw it out. You can burn it.
Never have to look at it again. You can burn it. You can
I've done that.
I will literally put things on my fridge. I literally will.
Yeah, put it on your fridge, celebrate it, whatever you feel like doing, it's all good.
So, next one is tips and warnings for the strategy. Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, like generally another really beautiful thing about expressive therapy is people are not going to let out more than they are ready to let out. And that will be true when people are working alone. It'll be true when they're working in a session with a therapist. And so the chances of something happening or being triggered that's overwhelming emotionally are very low.
Right.
Like in my practice, I've maybe seen it once with a client.
Okay.
So, but you should still be aware of it. So if you're doing something and you feel triggered in a way that you feel worse, or you're feeling uncomfortable, or a bad feeling is coming for whatever reason, then it's really important to be mindful of that and listen to it. So if you feel like that, then I guess you have to assess what level it's at. If it's, I need to call a friend, talk to a friend, I need to call a family member, I need to find professional help, then that definitely should be honored and followed through on.
Yeah, even if you just need to step back from it. You know,
yeah,
even
take
if
a
you
break.
just need to put it aside and take a break for a little while, then you know, just listen to your body is
Yeah,
important.
exactly, absolutely. But generally, I would say the way the process works is you're going to feel better while doing it. So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the differences between art therapy and this box, basically. Using creativity to cope and like art therapy.
Yeah, for sure. So it's all about creativity. So those are the things that the box and the profession have in common. But art therapy is an actual profession, like a psychologist or a doctor or a teacher. So it is something that people need to go to school for, and for many years, and get certification and diplomas or degrees or whatever it is for that, to actually use the title of art therapist and to be able to say they practice art therapy. So that is a profession that includes both the process and product of making art and the field of psychology, because really what art therapy is, in my teachings and experience, is the marriage of those two fields, art and psychology. So an art therapist is trained like a psychotherapist is, so we're trained in all the psychological theories and the different techniques to deal with different problems. Like, we're very eclectic that way, our background is solid that way. So what we do that's different is that we don't rely just on words, although the conversation is still a big part of the therapy. And we use also the artwork as a mode to express and heal and find answers. So it's kind of that triad, instead of it just being a dual relationship between two people. It's the triad. So the artwork is always a presence in the room and in the therapy. So it's pretty fascinating that way.
Yeah, sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and I feel really lucky to be able to do it. But but your box is that, so that doesn't mean that creativity is healing can't be used outside of a therapy session. Because I always encourage people to do that, because it can be a great coping tool as well when you're feeling on your own or alone, and that's what your box provides. So you're giving people those tools to be able to cope. So because, like I already said, creativity is in all of us. So a way to access that is wonderful. And I always say to people, you know, it's a practice as well, and the more you do it, the more it's a cumulative effect. It's like exercise again, that parallel. So if you exercise, the more you do, the better you feel. The more in shape your body is, the more alert you are. It's got this cumulative effects. So making art and being creative is the same thing. So if
it's like a muscle.
Yeah, thank you. It's like a muscle you work. So when you practice it like daily or like weekly, whatever it is for you, you're gonna be more in tune with it and be more readily able to access it and how it can help.
So who might find art therapy helpful then?
Well, you know, my bias is of course that it's good for anybody. But generally, if you want to, you know, if you want to speak more specifically to that, people that already like art or are drawn to it naturally are going to respond well to it. There's many people I get referred to me who make art a lot on their own. They have no like formal training, or they just already feel compelled to do it that way.
Yeah.
And then another group that it's good for are people who don't respond well in verbal only therapy for whatever reason. So this could be a language barrier. This could be again like a youth. Youth don't generally like to come and talk to adults. They really focus on their peer group and themselves. So it's good for them because it takes the pressure off in terms of coming to a professional adult and just sharing their lives and their feelings and their innermost thoughts. So it really helps them to feel comfortable. So I guess too for adults that again aren't like really comfortable with the process that of just coming in and talking. So anyone, and then there's like for some people it's a language or a cultural barrier, because art and creativity is universal. So that's something that transcends everything pretty much that makes people different.
Yeah.
So it's in every culture. You know, you have the art and the music, and the creativity is always there.
Yeah. Very true.
So, yeah, I guess it's special for those groups.
So if someone decides that they'd like to try and seek out art therapy to do professionally, what should they look for in an art therapist?
Well, definitely you want to make sure that the therapist has the training and credentials as an art therapist. So here in Canada, some people have degrees, master's degrees, and some people have a diploma. And so just make sure that person has the education, because I'm not aware of anyone doing this, but there are, people can say, well, I'm an art therapist or I practice art therapy, and there's no law or kind of rule against that. It's not regulated. The field is extremely young. I studied in the States, my graduate degree, because this was the 90s, so at the time the field was it was just so young here. It was very difficult to get proper, like a good training in it. So there in the States it was 30-40 years ahead. Canada, like there was one graduate school in Canada, and in the States there was like 30 some already. So it was really further ahead, and I really wanted to do it as a profession, just not as like something on the side or something that was sort of iffy.
Like incorporated.
And I knew that already people were going to be, what is art therapy, and is that something kind of far out or weird or like, you know, it needs to.
Like a science behind it?
Yeah, there is a science, and it is a profession, and it's based in, there is research and theoretical knowledge and training behind it. So I knew that would be important. So it's always good, make sure the person has the education and postgraduate credentials, something like either art therapy registration, or is registered as a counselor, registered as a social worker, something like that. So that's really important, I think. And then again, it's when you're finding a therapist, just any kind of therapist, you have to also make sure you have good chemistry. Make sure that is someone you feel comfortable with, someone you can be open with, and you know, you feel okay, because that's also really important, and a good therapist will always respect that and know that if they're not the right fit for you, you deserve to have the right fit, and they can maybe refer you on. There's also a website that you can Google it. It's for Saskatchewan art therapists, so I think most of us are on there. And then there's also the Canadian Art Therapy Association's website, which has art therapists by province.
Okay, that's great.
So yeah, we are out there. We're small in numbers, but we're mighty, and we're here.
And you can find them.
Yeah, we can find them, for sure. No, I just want to say that I really think what you're doing is spectacular.
Thank you.
And there's such a gap in our mental health services speak to Saskatoon and Saskatchewan, and there are people well-meaning in the health region, but they don't maybe totally understand the need versus what's being offered. There is a severe gap, and I hope we are continuing to reduce that. But what you're doing on your own, and you're a student, and it's just really amazing. You know, you're trying to fill that gap in your own way. So that's, you know, thank you for that, and that is generous and good, and maybe more of us can be compelled to do that with our own time, because I know you give that. And it is okay to talk about. We all have struggles. We all are going to have mental wellness struggles in our life. Some of us are going to have them more severe than others. So this is not something to be ashamed of. This is something that's you can pretty much expect to happen, or to someone you love close to you.
Exactly.
So it's just a part of life, unfortunately, but it's something we don't want to talk about because there's a stigma still. So, you know, we want to do the things that support our mental wellness. And so kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
I never know what to say at the end. This is always the hardest part.
Alex, help us.
Alex, help us.
Give us direction. We're putting you on the spot.
Thank you for watching.
There you go.
Just say thank you for watching.
Please
Thank
subscribe
you.
the link or please subscribe
yes, always what the
to channel.
YouTubers say, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for coming here and sharing your knowledge with us. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you for asking me and having me. I really appreciate it too.